In this lesson, we're going to be talking about what happens when you do transformations on equations of functions. All right, so transformations is when you change something about it. You make it bigger, you make it smaller, you move it left, you move it right, you just flip it over. Something changed with the function, right? Which is easy to see on a picture because you can say, oh, look, there's the original, there's the new one. It obviously went to the right. But on an equation, you have to know where the different parts are. So this is our table. This is everything that could happen. So this is a good time to pause the video and write all this down. You're going to want this in your notebook, right? This whole table thing here, right? What we see here is that when you change the equation, different things happen. So if you add a number to the end, see how it's outside of the parentheses? So if you add outside the parentheses, it's going to go up. If you subtract, it's going to go down. If you put it in the parentheses, adding in the parentheses goes left. Subtracting in the parentheses will go to the right. Right? So pay attention to if it's in the parentheses or out of the parentheses. If you give a negative to the front, it flips the x-axis. If you put it in the parentheses with the x, it's going to reflect the y, right? So it all matters where that negative is, but a negative is going to reflect. The front will reflect x, in will reflect the y. You put a number in the very front, it will do one of two things. If it's greater than 1, it's going to stretch it, so it's going to get bigger. If it is between 0 and 1, so like a half or a third or 2/3, that's all going to vertically compress. Compress just means it's getting smaller, right? So stretch gets bigger, compress gets smaller. If you put that number in front of the x instead, it's going to horizontally compress, right? So that means it's going to get wider. If it's greater than 1, compression would get skinnier if it's greater than 1. If it's under 1, it's going to horizontally stretch. So be careful with these because they're opposite each other. Vertically stretch is greater than 1, but horizontally stretch is less than 1. So just be careful with those. Alright, so like I said, you're going to want this table in your notebook. So I would pause the video and write it down if you haven't yet. Alright, so what we're going to do is take a look. So here's a function. We're going to list all the changes. So we're going to go thing by thing and say what it does. Alright, so we'll start with the 2 in the front. So the 2 in the front is, if we look back at our table, 2 in the front. So 2 is bigger than 1, so it's going to vertically stretch. Right, vertical stretch by 2. Next, we have a negative in front of the x. That's going to reflect, if you go back, the y-axis. Right, vertical, or reflective the y-axis. Minus 5 in the parentheses. If we look at our notes, minusing in the parentheses, it's to the right. And adding 3 on the end, going to go up 3. There we go. Right, in this next one, the negative is going to reflect the x-axis. The half is going to vertically compress by 2. right? Vertical compression by 2. Now notice how we said by 2 and not by half. When you vertically compress, you just say by 2, or if it's 1/3, you say by 3. The plus 3 here would go left 3, and the minus 6 on the back is going to go down 6. Okay. All right. And then this time we're going to go the other way. So here's the list. We're going to write the equation, right? So we know we're going to have this, right? There's going to be an x in here. So we're going to add these things in where they go. So up 5, that would put plus 5 on the end. Left 2 would put a plus 2 on the inside. Vertical stretch. Verticals go in the front. Stretch is getting bigger, so it'll be a 2 in the front. If it was a vertical compression by 2, we'd put a half. But a vertical stretch by 2 is going to be just the number 2 in the front. And there we are. And the next one, same idea. So we got our, that's always, that's already there. Right 5 is minus 5. Down 2 with minus 2 on the back. Horizontal stretch, horizontal goes in front of x. Stretch, if we look up here, a horizontal stretch is the less than 1. So that's the half, the third, the 2/3. So we're going to put a half here. And then reflect to y-axis. If we look back at our chart, reflecting the y-axis is x negative by the x. So it'd be a negative half on the inside there. And that's everything. All right, so if you have any questions on this, let me know. Like I said, please make sure this chart gets written in your notebook.